Excuse me, is this the reading room?
Yes, I'm Saad Manzoor.
And I'm Travis Howard.
This is Reading Room Talk. Thank you for pressing play.
Yeah, welcome.
Yes, we're back with another special guest.
Very special guest.
Super special. Part of the road specialty.
There you go.
Exactly, the D. We got Dr. Rawn in the house. What's up, man? How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad. I'm really excited for what y'all doing, so I'm glad to be a part of it.
Excellent. Well, we're excited to ask you the first question, which is, take us back to medical school. What was your toughest class or rotation in medical school?
All low. So,
I heard that.
Well, I'll start with class. I think for me, first year physiology was tough. I honestly, throughout high school, college, I was really strong with memorization. And unfortunately, that doesn't work in medical school. You need kind of correlation. You need to, it's really difficult to remember everything. So I went into first years, leaving class, going to class, like, all right. But then when those tests came, it was a different monster. And, honestly, it was talking to my engineer friends. They were like, no, you got to think of it like engineer, things correlate engineering because you have a problem, you're trying to fix it. So you need to get from point A to point Z. And once I kind of switched that physiology, I ain't gonna say it got easier, but it was
gave you some confidence, I'm sure.
It gave me some confidence, but it also lit a fire because I remember being called to Dr. Collins, who was looking out for all of us. He was like, I saw you got that 72 in your exam. Yeah, I ain't never got 72 was new to me. I wasn't really getting 72s like that. So I was okay. So I knew the cutoff. I was like, this first year is important. Like you got to get past it. So I would say physiology honestly was just tough, but it was the basics. I mean, you can't know medicine without knowing you can't know how to fix things that are broken without knowing how it's supposed to work in the first place.
That's exactly right. I was going to say 72 though. I mean, like what was you guys' passing score?
It may have been like 70. I mean, somebody was like, C's get degrees. I'm like,
but that's but like the 72 is like, that's like a real life 95 though, like,
right.
Like exactly. They make you feel bad about it, but you actually pass. That's like
exactly.
So
yeah. I was just worried, they was like, if you I don't like being close, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't even like my gas tank to get the E. So I'm like, I can't be 2 points away from barely passing.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, Ron, a little backdrop. Ron and I went to medical school together, University of Cincinnati. And the guy's brilliant, man. He memorizes everything. This guy will be reading his notes and making it look easy, making it look cool. So don't let him fool you. But I can attest to physiology being difficult and just trying to put the concepts together and figuring out how things correlate and are related. That's a lot of the battle when you're grinding your first couple of years. So
right.
But you can do it, figure it out. And 72, man, it's like we don't get to medical schools getting 72s. Nobody likes that. But you have to change your gauge, change your barometer. P equals MD a lot of the times.
You're trying to get through it. Yeah, you're trying to get through it. That's it. I mean, there's like, they have these studies where they talk to like Olympians, I guess. And, they talk to like the gold medal people and they usually, do pretty well. They feel good and like they usually have a nice life. And they talk to the silver medalists. And I guess the silver medalists, a lot of times, they'll have like more, mental issues later on because they feel like they should have had the gold. But then like they talk to the bronze people and they're super happy because they're like, I almost didn't get a medal. So
that's real.
I feel like, you get a 72 and you're passing these tests, you should feel good. I mean, you did have to go see, some people talk about it, but like passing is passing. That's not an easy accomplishment in itself, so.
And it seems like no matter if you get the gold or you get the bronze or you get a 72, is what do you do next? Like that's the most important thing, right? Are you going to continue to do better and progress, or are you going to allow whatever happened to cause you to fail or end or
no, that's real. Like, no, you gotta keep that mentality. Like, you gotta keep your mental right. And like, I think a lot of the times, like, there's like a lot of tricks and try to trip you up to kind of mess with you mentally. But like, I mean, you're passing. You got to keep going. So
Yeah,
that's
real.
That's real. So, but anyways, yo, take us back to where you're from.
So I'm born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. Went to Eastmore Academy High School in Columbus, which was
Nice.
kind of a college preparatory high school within the Columbus City Schools. Used to be Columbus Public Schools back then. So, being from Columbus, a lot of my friends, classmates from high school all stayed in Ohio, went locally. I went to Howard for undergrad.
Oh, nice.
So that was a really great look for me. I remember visiting my mom's friend, coworker. Her son was a couple years older than me. I visited him when I was a junior in high school. He was at Howard.
Nice.
And I completed my application that night as soon as I left him.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was kind of ready to go. I was ready to go. It was great. It was a good experience. I mean, I think one of the things that people people that don't understand Howard or other HBCUs, I tell people that was the most diverse place I've ever been in my life. And they're like, what?
Exactly.
But, first meeting people from the continent of Africa, meeting people from all the Caribbean islands, people from across all 50 states, everybody with different backgrounds, different upbringings. It was literally the most diverse place that I had been to that day, maybe to today, I should say. And that kind of came to that understanding was cemented when I went back to Ohio for medical school at University of Cincinnati, great medical school. But I looked up, a lot of the class was from Ohio. A lot of the class went to the same undergrads. A lot of the class kind of had the same upbringing, and I'm like, yeah, this is crazy. Like,
yeah,
I'm coming from a place where you got to understand people from across the continent or from the world, really.
World, yeah, exactly.
And so it was a little culture shock, not in the way that some people expect when you go to HBCUs. It was a culture shock because it was like, oh, I'm going to a place where everybody has the same mind, the same kind of upbringing, everybody's the same. It was a little different, a little challenge for me. Luckily, I had
great
people
perspective, though. That's a great
walk me through it.
For sure. And I think it speaks to our thinking that, certain populations and HBCU is going to be, it's a monolith. Like all people are going to be the same. But, you experienced, many different types of people at an HBCU. So
yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, that's wonderful, man. I'm always wishing I would have went to Howard when I talked to Rawn, because he loves it and still loves it. And the network, man, it's a wonderful place.
Wait, so what was your first like what did you do when you got to Howard the first time? Like just visiting, I guess. Like
okay. So I was 16. Was I 16? Yeah, I was 16. I was junior in high school. And my man, he was a DJ. So he would DJ parties. So at 16, he was like, "Oh, come to that's back when." Actually, before I got there, Howard used to have parties on campus. So they had a party at the Blackburn Center. It's like kind of like the student union. I'm 16.
I'm sure it's crazy.
In the party with the 18 to 22 years old. Just seeing a different world, literally. And so I'm like, oh, this is great. Everybody in the room. I mean, my high school was predominantly Black, so it wasn't a new thing to me, but just like, man, oh, you from Jamaica? Oh, you from Nigeria? Oh, you from DC? You from LA? Like, just, I'm like meeting all these people. And then,
I think I was going to say, the other thing is like, they're from these different places. They look like you, but they're also very serious about school, which is also like,
right.
Awesome.
It was like, you were just around synergy. And I'm like, oh, I like this. And at 16-year-old mind, you see 19-year-old girls being nice to you because you're the young guy. They're just being nice and being cordial, and you like, oh, I gotta go here.
Sign me up.
Right.
It kind of feel like, oh, I need to be here. But anyway, he was great. He was a very smart individual. He kind of connected me with his people. I think he was an upperclassman at that point. So you're starting to hear all these people leaving Howard and going to this, going to that, and doing this. And like, oh, okay. All right, I need to be here.
Yeah. No, that's real. That's I was going to say, I think one other thing that happens too. It's like you see people who like are having a life outside of like school, but then also getting their school on as well, which is also great to see. So,
yeah. And Ron was not only a student, but you were an athlete as well.
Yes.
Right.
So, and the funny thing that I always say about that is like when I went to Howard, my first year, I didn't participate in athletics because I was, I'm like, okay, I wasn't all state in track and field in high school, but I was solid. I was decent enough to do it at the collegiate level.
nice.
But I was like, you know what, I need to focus on school, and I'm gonna be biology major, so I need to focus. But honestly, not having that schedule that I had in high school, where I knew I had to be at practice before school and do school during the day and then practice afterwards. Not having that, actually, I was a little bit of a slacker because you get to college, you done at noon. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I got time. And so I actually went to senior year. I did a shot put and discus store, and that actually helped me academically, ironically. So
nice.
It was good.
Why do you say that?
It just put me on a schedule. I mean, I remember sophomore year, we had 5 a.m. weightlifting. I went back to the dorm. By 8 o'clock, I was in classes. I was done by 12. We had practice at 3. It just put me on a schedule. And so I knew, okay, I needed to, instead of my freshman year where it was like, well, I'll study later. It was like, no, you got between 12 and 3. Well, I wasn't studying like that. We'll talk about that later. But when it was time to study, it was like, okay, you got this hour to study. Right. 5 to 8 or 8 to 11, like, because you got practice or you got a track meet that weekend. So it just put me on schedule.
Yeah,
which is what I was used to.
Absolutely, man. That time management is super key.
Yeah, that's a gem. Like discipline, time management, organization. Don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it. Very important.
Oh, I love it. That's so good. And you're a bio major.
Yeah, because I didn't know any better. I mean, when you go, Howard didn't have an official like pre-med major. They did have a BS&D program, which I considered, and quickly was like, no, I'm not doing that, which kind of gave you a track, but there was no, for other students, there was no specific pre-med major. So I was like, well, what do you do when you want to be a doctor? Oh, you major in biology or chemistry. So I was like, okay, biology.
Boom.
Which, I learned a lot for sure, but now most of us probably look back and say, I wish I did this, wish I did that. And I just didn't know. I didn't know any better.
Yeah. But for that Howard student that's a biology major, what I guess sort of advice or what would you tell them to consider?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
I have a lot of mentees at different levels of life, and I always tell them like, begin with the end in mind. I wish that I minored in something other than chemistry. Chemistry was like a given minor because you kind of had to take classes to the chemistry minor. Exactly. Yeah. But I was like, I wish I would have spent some time in econ or some of the entry-level business courses, or, find a way to design your college experience to benefit you, because ultimately it's the last time for real that you're going to have this flexibility to be exposed to a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're a biology major and you're expected to have 128 credits over, everybody else has 120, 119. You're like, oh, they chilling. You feel pressured. But do it, or also explore. Like, I didn't realize that until I went to medical school. I remember one of our good friends from medical school. He was an English major, and he was killing it first year. And I'm like, why? It's because his reading comprehension was killing mine. He could read something or understand something, and sometimes especially with the volume that we had to read early on, if you can get through the material quickly enough and comprehend it, that's half the battle. Absolutely. And so I'm like, wow, knowing how this cell works really helped me in that physiology class. I had a 72. It didn't at all.
That's right.
But it is what it is.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
So your experience at Howard, what would you say that experience, how that has enriched your career and your life? For anyone who's considering HBCU, why would you do it again? Why would you do it all over again?
I mean, you talked about it. You mentioned it briefly. I met some of the most amazing people I have ever met and will probably ever meet in my 4 years at Howard. And it's somewhat like a fraternal feeling when you meet other Howardites and you understand the process that going to Howard teaches you. You know, a lot of people talk about prestige and stuff that you learn at an institution, but a lot of the stuff that I learned at Howard was not in the classrooms. It was outside of the classroom, learning how to persevere, learning how to push through hard times, learning how to juggle academically, learning how to make the best out of maybe a not great situation. Honestly, some of those things that are spoon-fed to people throughout time, I learned at Howard. And so the network, to get back to your original question, the network that I've obtained from there is just beyond measure. I mean, I just left the NMA convention and ran into some Howard people I knew from Howard undergrad, also Howard Med, that are like, oh, you went to Howard too? Cool. So it was like, wow, now we didn't go to school together. They went to Howard Med, I went to Howard undergrad, but it was still like, oh, we're together. We good.
Exactly. Oh, that's so good. That's awesome. So how did Howard kind of prepare you for applying to med school and getting into med school, would you say?
Well, from a like practical standpoint, we did have some people in again, it wasn't a pre-med major, but we had some people that were instrumental into kind of guiding the student. So a lot of the summer programs that I did that I think were helpful in getting me into medical school, like the SMDEP, which was SMEP back in the day.
Shout out.
I did that. Right. You know, that was recommended me from a friend of mine who's a year ahead of me. He did it, but they instructed him. So obviously that network kind of helped me prepare. I did a summer research program at Ohio State. I do have a Buck ID. You know, that's my little summertime there. So I feel, I feel I'm with y'all on that one.
Oh, wait.
Right. IO. So, you know, Howard kind of geared me into that. And honestly, you know, we did have a little funny story. We did have like an MCAT prep thing that they arranged for all the people that were interested in medical school. And I did not take it as seriously as I should have, honestly. My first MCAT experience was not a good one. But again, perseverance. I learned perseverance from being there, and I took it again and I killed it. So, well, not killed it. I did better.
There you go.
Let me clarify
that
real quick. I got into med school.
Yeah, you got into med school. Exactly.
And so did many of my friends. And so that's one of the, I think, a testament to Howard being an institution that educates a lot of the future physicians and dentists and pharmacists of the world, whether in undergraduate or in graduate school. So
absolutely. I mean, I was going to say, like, you know, I did the MMEP program, which is the, you know, same thing at Case. And like, I think that was like the first time that I actually was like around like a lot of like African Americans who were like serious about going into, you know, medicine. And I think it really, you just have like a cohort of people to go through this with, you know, at that point. And that's all really all it's about. I mean, it's probably more important to have like a cohort of people than it is to have like a strong academic department, because the mentors and the, you know, people that are like a year, 2 years ahead of you, they're going to help you out a lot more than like, you know, like a guidance counselor who's been out for like 20 years and didn't get into med school anyway. So, you know,
exactly.
That helped me out the most. Like, I remember being at Ohio State, like, I'm not getting any information. And then after I went to the MMBP program, I mean, they basically put me in contact with people I'm in contact with to this day. And the same people who told me, like, okay, so after your sophomore year, you're going to have to do this. After your, you know, junior year, you should probably apply to a research program. And, like, you know, it just kind of gives you, like, a direct idea about how to get this done. So, big shout out to all those programs. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do you do, Dr. Bosley? Tell us what you do.
I am a dermatologist.
Nice.
So I take care of the skin, hair, and nails. I am. I have one of the things about dermatology that I love in medical school was like it just seems so broad, and I hate it. I kind of hated other specialties that seem broad, but with dermatology, it seemed broad and within this possibility. So I like that you can take care of kids, you take care of adults, you take care of white people, younger people. You can do surgery. You're a pathologist, you're a pediatrician, you're a surgeon, you're an internist if you want to be, you're a rheumatologist if you want to be. And so
Awesome.
I was kind of drawn to that.
At what point in medical school were you like drawn to it? Like,
So not early on. Early on, being an athlete and
yes, say it. Gotta say it.
you know it. You know, being who I was like, I'm about to do ortho. I'm out here.
Yeah.
So, Travis and I had conversations about that back in the day.
Mhm.
But around sophomore year, I was like, I spent some time with orthopedists sophomore year.
Mhm.
And they was like, meet us Saturday at this high school football game. I said, Saturday. And I think he was a team doc for one of the high schools in Kentucky, but I think he also may have worked for either the Bearcats or the Bengals or whatever. But he was like, yeah, during this football season, in the weekends, we work. And then I tuned out after that. But
I was gonna say the O in road is not ortho.
No,
right.
Oh man, no.
But on the, honestly, Travis's wife Tammy had a friend, a co-intern who was she had two co-interns, I believe, that were dermatology prelims.
Nice.
And hanging with them was probably the first time I actually seriously considered it. I think Travis may not remember. We had a conversation about it. I was like, oh no, I don't really know about derm. But to answer your question a little bit more specifically, Cincinnati, we were allowed to do non-core rotations throughout our third year. So derm was my second rotation. It was just 2 weeks, 2-week elective. And after that 2 weeks, I was sold. I actually met my mentor, Dr. Hugh Gloucester Jr., who was a Black man. So I'm like, ooh, that's me. And he kind of scooped me up, honestly. He was like, all right, cool. You want to do this? And this is what we need to do. So I was kind of a late bloomer for derm. A lot, especially these days, a lot of these kids are like out of college in first week of med school doing derm research. I was August of my third year of medical school when I, quote unquote, decided.
I see.
Because that's what it takes, man. Derm is very, very, very competitive. So
it is. Yeah, but you were like interested in ortho, so you're already like trying to get high numbers, So like that's a nice thing when you're like interested in these things.
Yeah.
So high number, right? I think your surroundings are what creates you, right? Luckily, the gentleman on the phone with us, Travis Howard, was out here killing it, And he's an open kind of guy. He would share like, I took my step 1 practice test saying,
Yes, sir.
Get out of here, man. No.
So Travis is like, I only got a 240. I need to get more. I'm like, what?
Oh, man.
And then our other friend, Corey, who's out here, partying the night before, taking practice tests, get a 270. So I'm sitting here like, man. So
yeah.
I was pushed by those around me. Let's just say that, and so it helped. It gave
That's
me
exactly right.
It gave me the foundation I needed to be able to do whatever I wanted to do
and feel like you can do it.
Yeah, right.
Well, Ron has a knack for surrounding himself with talent. He's talented. I mean, that's no big ups to me by any means. I'm just saying, throughout his life, on his career path, he has surrounded himself with talented people, and that's definitely one of the man's strengths, and that pays off for anybody who's pursuing anything.
I mean, Travis, I told you this before, but one of my favorite Kanye lyrics: "New Jack City, got to keep my brother, but to be number one, I'm gonna beat my brother," and that is what drove me through medical school. It was like, oh, Travis got a 92. All right. Travis studying.
Let me get him.
I'm about to study.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I think that's that's you hear about that from athletes too. Like when athletes are like on a team and like you're like a wide receiver, and then you have like another wide receiver with you who's like really good. It makes you work harder. So it's the same situation. So that's great. Sure. That's so good. So like, so you decided to apply for Derm. How did that process go? Like, how did you get the courage up to like make that happen for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, without my mentor kind of directing me, I kind of would have been lost. Because ironically, I think our third year there may have been 3 people total interested in Derm, but only I ended up applying for Derm.
It's always single digits, exactly.
Yeah, it was really low, and so I remember rotating with other people and they're not deciding. So I really didn't have anybody to like, oh, were you interviewing? What's the deal? So hindsight, I kind of went into it blindly, and luckily my mentor was able to get me on a few projects he's working on. We did a big project my third year going into my fourth year. I did some away rotations my fourth year just to better my chances, and luckily those away rotations became fruitful. Derm is a very regional specialty. I'm sure some of the other specialties are similar, but when you go to school in the Midwest, you match in the Midwest. So I ended up going back to Howard to do a derm rotation, which I think was great because I got to see the East Coast perspective of dermatology and meet some other basically Black derms in training and attending. So that was great.
Nice.
And so although I was kind of going through it by myself with classmates, I had people along the way that were very helpful. Tell me what to do.
Well, I remember Ron and I were trying to make a decision on what to choose. And, we talked about this earlier side on other, speaking with other folks about how as an African-American, you feel this push to go into primary care. And the, the specialties that are on the road, you think, those, you would be giving in or sacrificing something to choose one of those subspecialties.
And they make you feel like that too, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. But Ron and I, we thought, you know what? To hell with this. We're going to choose what would make us happy. And I think, as you'll see, as we ask Ron where he's taking his career and the things that he wants to do, you can make it your own. You can still be socially conscious and fight, equality, equity, all those beautiful things, and still practice one of these subspecialties. So I just want to take a moment to pause and realize, just let people know, like, you can do it.
Yeah, you can do it, and you should do it.
Yeah. So as a dermatologist, how do you feel, or what's your goal, and how are you helping treat African Americans?
So that pressure never stops, especially in derm. There aren't too many Black derms at all, period. You get out, you're expected to. So, short story. I remember going to Howard doing my rotation, and they asked me, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I want to help Black people." And one of the residents was like, "Oh, so you want to just do Black derm?" And she was like, "Good luck." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" And she didn't say it. She didn't say it in a condescending way. I just kind of took it that way. But she explained. She was like, "It's very, oftentimes you're kind of pigeonholed into seeing people that look like you because there's nobody else that understands it. Derm is unlike any other specialty. I tell people all the time, like the physiology or pathophysiology of a heart attack is pretty much the same no matter what race you are. Like if there's no blood flow to the heart for a period of amount of time that causes the heart cells to die, whatever. There's environmental factors that play into that, but when it comes to pathophys, it's pretty much the same. Derm is weird. It's different. Like
great point.
A disease in a Black person, even if you biopsy it, may look different under a microscope than in a white person.
Talk about it.
And so there's like nuance, not only in the pathophys, which is nuance, but then you add that to the environmental, social, and other aspects of the cultural aspects that can affect skin. It's like, oh, if you have no idea that a person of this ethnicity does this culturally, you might misdiagnose them. And so it's expected for us to understand and know these things as we walk into the room, which I'm not saying no other specialty does it, but it just happens a lot.
That's a great point. That's absolutely great.
And so I went into residency. Luckily, I matched in Detroit, which at the time was 88% Black. So I got a really strong foundation, not only 80% Black, but also has one of the largest populations of people from the Middle East in the Detroit area. So I had very great, Dearborn, Michigan, had a very great, which is where our main clinic was. So I had a really great experience in dermatology. So I felt compelled and feel compelled to continue to help people of all ethnicities because I had that training, I had that experience. And I remember one of the programs in the Midwest, I had a colleague who told me they saw like 3 Black patients all year. And I'm like, that's not helpful when you leave and you go practice in Baltimore, Maryland.
No.
That's not going to be as helpful. You're going to have to learn at that
like
point.
on residency again, exactly.
Yeah.
So one of my, I have personal interests as far as what I want to do in dermatology, but underlying all that is my continued efforts to make sure that I'm seeing people that look like me or people that may not have access to clinicians who can empathize, sympathize, whatever you want to say with them and their disease processes, et cetera.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
good. That's so good. And I mean, I think it's nice. There's like a whole like I guess there's like a big push now for like just national, I guess, like on TV and stuff, and like like you go to like an Ulta or Sephora and like there's actual like African American sections and stuff now, which was like not the case a few years ago. So
it's very important.
Absolutely.
And we continue to try to diversify. I think ortho is the least diverse specialty. Derm is second.
Wow.
And so we're continuing to kind of help raise up people who look like us, who have similar cultural experiences, but also teach those who don't have those experiences how to better address culturally, but also clinically people of color.
And that's what I love what you do, in your free time. You are a mentor. You are helping those that are interested in the field. You are, you're on panels at the NMA, and you're putting the word out, and you're attracting talent. Just being here and telling us your story and the things you want to do. These things make a difference. So I really appreciate you for that. But Ron Saad is finishing fellowship here soon. Tell us about that, man. Why you went into fellowship and the things you want to do there. It's great.
I thank you. I am finishing a fellowship out in Spokane, Washington. My fellowship director, Cameron Chestnut, he's a dermatologist, facial plastic surgeon, does a lot of innovative things in regenerative medicine. So it's been a blessing to spend a year out there to further my career, learning many aspects of dermatologic surgery. And also, he is uniquely trained and does a lot of facial plastic procedures. So it's definitely opened a totally new avenue for me.
Can you explain facial plastics to people who like may not know what exactly?
Yeah. So and actually, I'm learning new things about it. So facial plastics is a subspecialty that is traditionally a subspecialty of ear, nose, and throat doctors. So these are facial plastic surgeons do procedures like eyelid surgery, blepharoplasties, facelifts, neck lifts. And there are plastic surgeons who are general plastic trained that also do facial plastics. There are a few dermatologists that are surgically oriented that do it, but I guess until recent history didn't know there was there's the American Academy of Facial Plastics and Reconstructive Surgeon. I didn't realize there was such a wide array of clinicians from various specialties. In my mind, when I'm in medical school, when I see somebody's facial plastic, I already think they're ENT trained. But there's tons of plastic surgeons. There's a couple derms, a lot of ENT people out here doing facial plastics. And so it is for up until recently, I think derm is a very evolving specialty. And years ago, dermatology was a subspecialty of internal medicine. It was actually like an infectious disease subset. And now there's more. The most procedures that are done in facial aesthetics are usually done by dermatologists. They may not be the more invasive procedure, but over the arc of all procedures.
Numbers wise, yeah.
And so derm is becoming very procedural oriented. And so this opportunity has just been great because I can kind of add more tools to my tool belt, put things in my bag to use for my patients back home.
That's so good.
Wonderful. And an investment in yourself and your skill set that, at some point in your career, you may realize, hey, I want to do this or do that. And this man has had the courage and the willpower and the strength and the perseverance to make it happen. I'm really proud of him, man. You know, I think it takes a lot of guts to do what he's done. Ron was practicing for some time and then
Mhm.
decided to go do fellowship. And it's just, you know, when you start making money and you get settled and you get, it's hard. It's a hard, difficult thing to do. But again, like, don't quit. Always try and be happy in this life and do the things that you want to do. And I'm just excited to see all the wonderful things he's going to do, man, with his fellowship and his experiences and just trying to help those along the way. It's
Yeah.
going to be great. It's going to be great.
Oh, that's real.
Yeah.
You'll never
It already has.
regret, like, you know, investing in yourself, and that's what you're doing. So you're investing in yourself. So that's,
Yeah. It, you know, as we talked about what got me interested in derm. Again, my mentor, he was a derm surgeon. He was a Mohs surgeon. He did surgery. You know, that was his main specialty. And I always had interest in procedures and the traditional way of getting into dermatologic surgery. You know, I tried that. I applied for fellowship twice and didn't get in. There's not too many Black men, period, that are derm surgeons, let alone Mohs surgeons. And so, unfortunately, the cards I were dealt, I didn't play them. I just had to change my cards. And luckily, met my mentor and my fellowship director who gave me this opportunity. So,
yeah, kept at it.
It's going to be great. Yeah, yes.
You kept at it, and like now, like since you know you had that experience that you had, now you're gonna open doors for other people too.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Without a doubt,
already happened.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I love it. Oh, that's amazing.
So, yeah, man. So, Ron, I always ask this question. You know, the most difficult thing that you've encountered along your journey, and how you overcame it, and where do you get your strength? Where do you pull from?
The most difficult thing in my journey is it's a really good question. It makes you ponder for a sec. I think starting in medical school, I think the most difficult thing for me was honestly believing in myself that I could do the things I wanted to do, especially derm. Like derm was hard to get into. That's what everybody said. It is hard to get into, but kind of having that
belief,
the knowledge of self that you can do what you want to do is helpful, especially when you got people. I remember, you know, being on a surgery rotation and just not feeling supported from whomever, and saying like, you start to doubt yourself.
It's a vicious one. I'm gonna tell you. That surgery rotation was no joke. It was
no joke.
A lot of fortitude to come through that with your head held high.
Yeah. And so again, that just helped build me and support me. I think residency for me was great. You know, I think leaving residency, maybe that's why I'm in fellowship now. I just kind of felt like I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Like I still didn't know. I think that was tough for me too. Like still being pulled. Derm is again a very broad specialty. So there's many things you can find and do in dermatology. And I didn't know. And I still felt that pressure. Like, do I need to only see skin of color, or can I just do surgery? Which means I wouldn't see any, you know, not many skin of color patients. Right. Not knowing what to do, like that has been, or what I can do. But honestly, at some point, you just do what you want to do. Do what makes you happy.
Exactly.
And I think what gives me strength is just the support of friends and knowing that if I have a goal and I have a purpose, my friends are helping me build as an individual, as a person, helping me lead myself essentially to my purpose.
Yeah.
So I lean on that network I alluded to earlier, whether it be from undergrad or friends from medical school and thereafter. I lean on them to kind of pull me forward.
I love it.
Wonderful,
and the Kanye line. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I love it. Well, we'll get you out of here
always
real quick. So what would you tell someone who's struggling in medical school or undergrad trying to make it happen for themselves? What would you tell them?
I would tell them, look up and look behind you. Look up to the people that have done it, connect with them, listen to them, talk to them, have a conversation with them, mimic them. emulate them, learn from their mistakes, learn from their downfalls, and then look at the people behind you that you need to lift as you climb. And because sometimes when you feel, at least my personality, when you feel like somebody's depending on you, it pushes you further.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
And so it can be done.
Plus, it's I think like those give you, that kind of gives you little wins when you're helping someone along right behind you. That kind of gives you like a lot of like confidence as well. So
absolutely,
like it's kind of symbiotic. Kind of helps you and helps them too. So that's
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a blessing to be able to give. That's it.
Exactly. But that was awesome, man. We really appreciate the story into Derm. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, thank you for having me. I feel like this is a very comfortable set. I love what y'all doing. I love the different people you talk to, and just hearing their journey. And you could get a nugget or gem from every conversation you guys have had with other physicians, and that's what it's going to take to have the younger folk listen to this and be like, oh, I remember Dr. Such and Such said this, and Dr. Such and Such did that, and now they have a roadmap. Play on the road. Not everybody has to go on the road, but whatever. But they have
but I mean, like, we appreciate you being open and honest. I think that's the thing. Like, sometimes, you'll meet people who are not going to be open and honest with you. So, like, we really appreciate you sitting down with us and being open and honest about your journey and how, like, you're making it happen for yourself. It's not going to be a perfect, road or like path, but you can still make it happen, and you're like making it happen. So we really appreciate you being honest, and I'm sure all the listeners really appreciate, all the insight and the confidence you give everybody. So
for sure.
Yes. Thank you.
For anybody listening that's a young budding dermatologist, whether you're in medical school or beyond, the National Medical Association Dermatology section has been amazing. We are bringing along. I think we've matched 92 students in derm in the last 2 or 3 years, which is like crazy.
Wow,
that's wonderful, man.
So,
shout out.
Like that's when I say reach out to people that are ahead of you. That is how you kind of latch on, and we lift as we climb. So whatever specialty it is, find that organization, find those people. Just find them, talk to them, and help them lead you.
Absolutely, and that common theme of NMA is like in all the specialties. I mean,
right.
It's like everyone in all the different specialties. You can always, if you have no one around you, you can always reach out to someone in NMA. Always,
for sure.
Yeah, but excellent, man. We really appreciate it, man. Really appreciate you doing this with us, and appreciate everybody listening. And
yes, thank you.
Yes, definitely. Until next time, stay low and keep firing.
Keep firing, baby.